This is the largest brown coal field in the world. It's in Serbia. And I had the privilege of being there not so long ago. It's a huge, huge coal field. It is the largest one in the world. And they are just digging this stuff out over there. And as you look at it, you can just see the layers and layers and layers and layers of brown coal. In between, you have these little layers of mud, showing that this is a water deposit. And then you have these huge clumps or layers of white chalk. This chalk, in this case, is formed by a tiny little microorganism which is called radiolarians. So it's also a floating marine organism, and there they are. Now, what is a marine layer doing in a forest? Now, I had the privilege of going walking there with the geologists of the area. Here are two shells that come out of this forest, or this layer of brown coal. Would you agree that that's an interesting phenomenon to find in a forest? Do you have any marine shells floating around in your forests? Yes or no? I doubt it. This is the scientist who I went with. He is a trained geologist who grew up in the communist system. He was trained in the evolutionary theory, and he walked with me and he said to me, "You know what? I smoke a lot," he says. I said, "Why you smoke a lot? That's not very healthy." And he said, "I smoke a lot because I have to lie a lot." And here he's picking up a piece of this chalk, this radiolarian material, and he's saying, "I know this all happened underwater, but I have to tell people that come here that this happened in a forest situation. This never happened underwater. This is a huge flood catastrophe. That's the only explanation." And if we look at the wood, you can pick it up. There it lies between the coal. Some of it is formed coal, some of it is still wood. Here's a piece where the bottom has formed coal and the top is still wood. So how old is it? How many millions of years do you think that's old? I want to take you all to a very exciting place. In many areas of the world, you have petrified forests. This is what a petrified tree looks like. That's a tree that has turned to stone. Now, in some areas of the world, you have some amazing features. Like if you go to Yellowstone National Park, for example, if you go to Mount Hornaday over there, you will find one layer of petrified forests, one on top of the other. And these trees are standing there in the upright position. Now, science has always taught that these trees stand like that because they grew there in the past. So this tells us that there were long periods of stability, so there could not have been a universal flood. In fact, these petrified trees were used to ridicule the model of a universal flood. So they literally stand there. They are huge. They look as if they grew there forever, but did they? The only difference between them and modern trees is they are stone, solid stone. And you have these layers. Interestingly, the layers are flat, one on top of the other. Now, here's some interesting features. Here is one that stretches through more than one layer, but if you look at it, there are some interesting phenomena. Number one, there are no roots. The roots are ripped off. Number two, there's no bark. And if you look on the sides, they don't have any branches. Now, what science is saying is that these forests grew there, then there was an eruption of a volcano, ash came down and buried the forest. And then a new forest grew, and then there was an eruption and buried the forest. And then a new forest grew, and then there was an eruption and it buried the forest. 40, 45 times after each other, and now you have all these layers, over 40 layers of forests. But they're all flat, which is very strange. And some of them have upright trees, and they have horizontal trees in them. Now we're looking at these trees. If you dig them out, there you can see there's a flat one, and here are a whole lot of horizontal ones. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one lying over there. And the interesting thing is, they're all facing in the same direction. And this is weird. Did the trees then in the past always fall over in the same direction? So what you do is you measure it. So they went to all the various layers and found, well, in this layer, it's in that direction. And in the next one, in that direction, and that direction. So these layers of forests are orientated according to stream direction. If you take a modern forest, you don't pick up those patterns at all. So what happened? Something must have changed.